Welcome back to the Prime Focus Goalkeeping channel. My name is Brandon Miller, your host. This is Coach Pablo, our goalkeeper today, and we're going to talk a little bit today about setting up your wall, right? Setting up your wall for direct free kicks. We'll talk a little bit about indirect free kicks in tight, free kicks a little bit further away, how many people you need in the wall, how you set up your wall so you're in the proper position in goal to make saves, right? We're going to talk about all those different things when setting up a wall. So first things first, we want to talk about the distance of the strike. All right, so you set up a wall a little bit differently from 40 yards out than you do from, say, 18 to 20 yards out. So we're going to look at a few different scenarios today, but we're going to talk about the number of people that you need in the wall first. All right, so typically on balls further out or balls from the angle where you're more sure that the shooter's not going to take a strike on goal, they're more so looking to cross a ball into the 18. Right, those are the situations where you don't need as many people in the wall. All right, so we're gonna talk about balls from the angle, balls from 35, 40 yards out on the angle. Maybe you have one person in the wall, maybe you have two people in the wall, right? You put people in the wall there so that when they're whipping in balls into the 18, it's not simply a ball that they can just put in without any deterrence. You have someone there to force them to play the ball around the wall a little bit, maybe play it a little bit more higher up in the 18 as opposed to just whipping a ball where they want inside the 18. And so we're talking about one or two people from out there, right? Adjusting your wall so you're still protecting your goal, but you can start to creep out a little bit and be more aggressive inside the 18. That's what you look for when you're looking at balls that are in wider areas or a little bit higher out, 40, 50 yards out, where you know the ball is going to be lobbed in. But as that ball starts to creep in, as it starts to get into shooting range, we're talking about 35 yards out, 30 yards out, 25 yards out. Now it's starting to get closer to where it's more so the strikers are thinking about hitting the target, putting shots on target, right? So now how many people do we put in the wall? Well, it depends on a number of different things. How close are we? From 25 yards out and in, typically I like to put 4 to 5 players in the wall to protect the strike, right? Because from there, most people are trying to put a ball on target. Can't say everyone's going to, but trying to put a ball on target. So let's first look at a situation from, say, 28 yards out. All right, so Pablo, we've got a ball set up over here. We're gonna move it slightly. So first thing I want us to look at, Pablo, when ball goes down for a free kick, about 28 yards out, what's the first thing you're gonna do?
Set my position in the goal.
Set your position in the goal. Right, so before that, right, where do you wanna be set in the goal? Ball's 28 yards out, you see where the ball is, where do you wanna be set in the goal?
If it's right down the middle?
No, we're gonna deal with this ball on the right first.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know I'm a long guy, so I try to stay as close as I can to this post without exposing that post. But at the same time, like if I can't see the ball too much, I'll try to stay a little closer to the wall, not too far to the post, and then I'll make sure the wall is covering a little extra off my first post.
Okay, so there's a few good things that you said in there, right? Vision of the ball is the biggest thing. And it's going to be tough because you can set your wall, but the other team is going to set up their wall as well to block your vision. So the first thing for me that you need to do, is make sure somebody gets in front of the ball, right? So that way the ref says, that way they have to ask for 10, and that way you have the time to set up the wall, right? So a lot of goalkeeper coaches are going to tell you to come over to the post, and you're going to come over to the post if you have time, right? You've got to see where this ball is going to be set down, and then that's how you start to line up your wall off of that, right? So if you have your positioning here, you know where you want to be set, that's fine, but your wall dictates a lot of where you're going to be set. So we come over to the post here, we're looking down the post, and we see that we now have a vision of the ball. So first things first, I'm gonna go move this ball. So now we've got our ball set up. We're in line here. So where would you be set up for this strike right now? Ball's down, ref's blowing the whistle. Where are you gonna be set up here? All right, so let's talk about it from the perspective of your wall. So we wanna look at the post because the post is gonna dictate a lot of where we set up our wall. So we're looking at the ball right now. One of the big rules that we want to kind of abide by, and when we're setting up our wall, is making sure we have at least one man outside of the line of the post. If there's a line between the post and the ball at least one man outside of that post to protect your post. I typically like to go 2 to be a little bit more safe, but then that lends for your set position to push more towards the near post as the far post. But making sure that you have someone protecting your near post outside of your post so that when they try and whip the ball around the post, it's a really tough ball to hit. That's one of the biggest things. All right. So coming back in here and thinking about, one, how many players are on the ball, right? If there's one player on the ball and he's a right footer, we can move that wall a little bit more inside because we know that right footer is not going to try and curl a ball outside that post, right? So if there's one shooter on the ball, it's a right footer, then we can be a bit more aggressive with our wall to the left side because we know he has to go up and over the wall to hit that near post, and that's a difficult strike. We want them to do that, and we're going to talk about how we deter that a little bit later, right? But if there's 2 people on the wall, now we have to deal with a whip outside of the wall, or we deal with a right footer who can go over top or this far post, right? So understanding first, how many people are on the wall, all right? So we'll say that there's 2 people on the wall or on the ball right now. So we've got to make sure that we've got our near post covered. So we've got 2 of our mannequins outside the post. We've got 2 strikers on the ball. Where's your positioning now, right? Where's the best place for you to get set so you can see both the ball, you can cover the near post and the far post. Now, this is where a lot of goalkeepers get hung up. So in this situation, especially in the modern game now, the opposing team's going to put 2 players, 3 players off the outside of that wall, so it makes it even harder to see the ball. But let's say there's no defenders on the side of that wall there, right? So now we're talking about what your positioning looks like to cover the far post and the near post. If you're too far this way, now you're leaving a lot of that near post open. And while it is a tough strike to get up and over the wall, whether they're jumping or not, right, we want to be in a bit better position to cover everything. Ball's about 28 yards out, right? You can be a little bit more aggressive towards the middle because from 28 yards out, you should be able to shuffle and cover this far post, even on a strike that's really well struck to that top corner, right? From that distance, you should be able to move. Now, as that ball gets in closer and you don't have as much reaction time, now you have to start adjusting your positioning. Maybe we're adding another person to the wall, making it really hard to either hit this top corner or get the ball up and over, right? So the number of people you put in the wall often determines where that shooter is going to shoot. If I put 6 in that wall there, right, now it's really hard for them to get up and over. I can push my positioning here. There's no chance they're going to shoot at far post, and now we're trying to force them to go up and over, right? But that's not typically what we're going to do, right? So we've got 4 in this wall right here, all right? Right footer, left footer. We're covering that near post. We've got 1.5, 2 players covering that near post. We're in a position where we feel good about pushing to the far post if necessary and going over top. Now, let's talk it. I'll let you get into position. Let's get you in a position where you feel comfortable. Let's go back up here, and we're going to look at it from this angle. All right, Pablo, how do you feel there? Now, that looks like a pretty good position to me. Now, as a striker, now I'm a world-class striker. I understand that, and so you may be a little bit nervous. But as a striker, when I look at this ball, I'm lining up to take a strike with this ball. I have trouble seeing that far post. I can see the far post clearly, but I understand that there's not a lot of distance between you and that far post. All right, so my objective right now is to get up and over this wall and put that ball into the back of the net. Now, when we're setting up the wall, we got to talk about the height of our defenders in the wall and where to position those, because that often is a big issue for goalkeepers. Setting up the wall, if we put our tallest players on the outside, right, we're covering the far or the near post here, but we're thinking about balls being whipped over the top of the wall. We would want our taller players to be more in the middle because that's where the ball's going to travel. If it's a right footer, ball's not going to travel over this far man here to get up and over. It's going to whip out and go out of bounds, right? They're aiming to get the ball over the wall in this area, so we want our taller players towards the middle typically. Now, another thing that we want to look at is jumping versus not jumping in a wall, right? So if we have our wall, we've got 4 players here. Do we want them to jump to block that ball over top? Now we can do that. We can have our wall jump. And right now we've got a table behind our wall, but sometimes in a game, you may have a player laying down on the ground behind the wall to prevent that ball from being hit underneath when your wall jumps. We've got to think about these things because the more people we put in the wall, the less people we're going to have to defend, whether there's a rebound, whether they're not shooting, they chip it into the box. We've got to think about the numbers that we have in the box. All right, so looking at it, are we going to have our wall jump? Sure, if we have our wall jump, do we have somebody below? Right, your positioning looks good. Your positioning looks really good there. The big thing for this one, right, I'm here as a striker. As I start to go to the ball, a lot of goalkeepers tend to start to cheat towards that near post because they're nervous about this ball being whipped up and over. And granted, I've been there before, right? It can be nerve-wracking because a striker from this distance hitting at pace is really tough to get over. First, you got to track the ball. Once it gets over the wall, you have probably a second, maybe a second and a half to react and get across the goal, right? So as you start to go, the goalkeeper starts to cheat across, and then that's when you see a lot of balls just whipped in far post and easy goals let in because goalkeepers start to cheat a little bit. So we've got to trust our positioning and we have to feel really confident in the positioning that we have. So setting the wall is crucial. You've got to feel confident that if a left footer is on here, the left footer is not going to be able to whip this ball around the wall and sneak it in that near post because that's a really difficult ball to make a save on. You've got to feel confident that if a right footer's here, you've got to communicate with your wall. Do I jump? Do I stay on the ground? Right? Do I have someone underneath? But always be confident in your position and confident enough that you don't have to cheat once the striker gets here. All right, so let's talk about another difficult situation. Ball's right down the middle. So now we have to decide what side of the goal we're going to put our wall on. And again, a lot is dictated by what strikers are on the ball. Right? Maybe I have a really good right footer who's very crafty and can put the ball either side versus a left footer who isn't as good, right? Knowing the players is definitely helpful, but in this situation, it's kind of tough. You've got two strikers on the ball, one left-footed, one right-footed. So how do we decide which side of the goal we're going to put the wall? Now, it's easy when the ball's, on the angle over there, on the angle over here, because we know which side of the goal we're going to cover that near post. Now it's down the middle. What is the near post for a left footer or a right footer? So where do we want to put the ball, or where do we want to put our wall? All right, so it's picking one side or the other. I typically pick a side that I feel a bit more confident diving to if I have to work across the goal. All right, so for me, that's going to be putting my wall on the right side and me being on the left side of the goal. That way I can work across to my right if need be. But again, it's dictated by the strikers, who you feel more confident, deterring to shoot. Who do you want to shoot? And that's going to dictate where you put my wall. So if I want my left footer to shoot, right, maybe I put my wall a little bit more on that side and give them that open side on that side, and I'll adjust my positioning to that. But right now we've put our wall on the right side. So let's go in here and take a look at it. So we've got our wall on this side, and we've got 4 on our wall. Maybe from this distance, we're looking at 22, 23 yards out. Maybe from this distance, we add another person into the wall, maybe on this side, to really cover our near post, right? But we've got 4 on the wall right now. Maybe we add 5. The other team most likely is going to put 1 here and put 1 here. You're going to have a lot of people in front of you to try and see the ball. So let's look at it from another angle. So we're back here. We're looking at Pablo's positioning. Pablo, where would you be set for this strike right here?
So
right down the middle.
Right down the middle. I try to be as close to the middle as possible, where I would not lose sight of the ball.
So that's the biggest thing, is being able to see the ball. And it's going to be really difficult in this situation because the other team's most likely going to have 2 people right there. You may have a 5th person on the end of your wall, right? So I'm going to have to be looking through legs. I'm going to have to do what I can to see the ball. Maybe it is creeping a little bit over to find that angle, right? But understanding, I have to 100% protect the side of the goal that I'm on, right? So if I'm on this left side of the goal, ball can't go in on this side. If it goes up and over the goal from this distance, right, we don't have a ton of reaction time. Maybe it's a really good strike. We do want to be able to move our feet and get across, but positioning your wall to where they're covering, their job is to cover one side of the goal. Hopefully I can cover the other. Okay, so we've got 4 in the wall right now, maybe a 5th. We're trying to see the ball. We're looking around, right? But not being too far over here, because from that distance, a very good player can simply just chip that over, and it's going to be hard for you to move your feet and fully stretch and get across the goal, right? So positioning yourself so you can a quick bit of footwork and explode to get to that corner, but you're also covering this near post, right? So some situations we also see in this is sometimes goalkeepers like to split their wall, right? Put maybe 2 on this side, 2 on that side, or maybe 3 on 3, right? So I'm standing right down the middle, and it's making it hard for either the right footer or the left footer to go up and over the wall one side or the other. The best shot for them would be a hard strike route right down the middle, which I'm here to deal with. Some people feel a bit more comfortable with that. I haven't done that a ton, and I haven't taught my goalkeepers to do that a ton, because it's one, you got to be able to communicate that, but 2, it also tends to get you a little bit more nervous, because now I don't know which side the ball is going to, and while it may be difficult one side or for both sides, now both strikers still have an opportunity to strike. Whereas if I'm a little bit over here, I have a little bit better understanding. Like, it's going to be really tough for this left footer to curl that ball around the wall or go up and over, because it's curling back into me. So a right footer it lends itself better for a right footer on this side. So it's about the mental game as well, of trying to force which shooter you want to shoot. Like, there's been times in the game where I see 2 on the ball, I'm in a similar position here, and I'll move my wall a little bit this way because I want that left footer to shoot that one, right? And it's a mental game of like understanding, once I see that left footer going onto it and they strike that ball, I know I'm going to have to push quick and try and make that save, but that's the shot I wanted, as opposed to not knowing who's going to come, right? So those are the main things that we talk about when setting up a wall. Right. What does it look like when we go over to the post? Now, for a ball down the middle, going over to the post doesn't really make a ton of sense. We're not really so much worried about that. We're more so worried about covering that near post and finding our positioning. But you can come over to the near post and have a look and see, oh, maybe I need to add an extra person to that wall to make it really difficult to curl around, right? So understanding what it looks like from the post. How many people do we have outside of the post that are going to protect that near post? Where's my positioning? How do I put myself in a position where I can move across if that ball goes up and over the wall, or in some cases underneath the wall, but still protecting the far post, right? How many people am I putting in the wall? What distance is it from? If it's in closer, am I going to have more people? Yes. If it's further out, how do I deter the person who's crossing the ball from simply putting the ball wherever they want, right? There's a number of different situations that you're going to deal with, from 30 to 35 yards out. Maybe it's 3 people instead of 4, because there's still the potential for a shot, but most likely a ball's getting whipped in as a cross, right? So making those different decisions, obviously, is something we're going to learn in the game, and it's something that we just need a little bit more experience for, but you could start to practice these things as you hopefully get some mannequins that will stay up more consistently. But having some mannequins, having a shooter, understanding where your positioning is, where you feel most comfortable. Some people feel most comfortable here, while others feel a little bit more comfortable in here. Right? Understanding where you feel comfortable, but being confident in your position, so you're not cheating one side or the other. As the striker comes towards the ball, I'm not starting to lean and cheat, and then all of a sudden that ball's getting hit far side, and that's the side that I should be protecting. So confidence in your positioning, understanding who's in the wall, what are the heights of the people in the wall, and where am I lining them up? A lot of these things we try to figure out before the game, so when it gets in the moment and we've got 5, 10, 15 seconds to figure this stuff out, we're not scrambling. Right, your field players need to know their jobs and where they are in the wall, but you also have to command that and dictate that, because sometimes, on paper, on the bulletin board in the locker room, it may say, hey, I want 5 people in the wall from this distance, but maybe you don't feel comfortable with that day. Maybe the other team is putting more people in the wall, and you don't want to be obstructed with another person in the wall. It's all up to the goalkeeper to make those decisions, but we have to be confident in our decisions, and we have to be confident in our set position so that we can start to make saves, whether it's going over the wall, under the wall, or around the wall. So that's about it for our wall setup for today. I think we've covered most of the topics there. For additional questions or comments on it, please leave a message in our YouTube comments. But other than that, enjoy and stay focused.